Once upon a time 8 men having breakfast at a coffee shop. 6 of them are using aliases and are dressed in matching black suits and ties, Mr. White, Mr. Blonde, Mr. Blue, Mr. Brown, Mr. Orange, and Mr. Pink. Among them is the older Los Angeles criminal Joe Cabot. And his husky child, pleasant person, Eddie Cabot. Mr. Brown examines his relative investigation on Madonna's Like a Virgin. Nice guy Eddie says that he's been listening to a local rock radio show called K-Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s. And he's heard songs that haven't been played in a long time. Mr. White is enraged by Joe's senior moments involving an outdated address book. White takes the book from Joe and won't give it to him again until Joe stops talking about it all the time. At the point when it comes time for Joe to take care of the bill for the feast, he advises everybody to toss in $1 for the tip. Mr. Pink defends his anti-tipping policy and explains that he does not give tips until Joe yells at him and convinces him to join the group. After the initial attributes, the activity slices to the inside of a quickly moving vehicle. While driving with one hand, Mr. White is attempting to comfort Mr. Orange, who is lying in the back seat after being shot in the abdomen, is bleeding, and is screaming in pain. The robbers' meeting place is an abandoned warehouse when they arrive. Orange begs White to take him to the emergency room, but White says that an abdominal gunshot wound takes a long time to die. Mr. White leaves Mr. Orange on the floor when Mr. Pink shows up, furiously proposing that their burglary of a gem specialist, coordinated by Joe Cabot, was a police setup, demonstrated by the quick reaction of the police to the caution. White concurs, and they tediously get their accounts straight with one another. The first of a few flashbacks shows Mr. Pink getting away from the gem store with the jewels. While running down a road pursued by 3 or 4 police officers, Mr. Pink is hit by a vehicle, out of which he hauls out the lady driver and starts shooting at the police officers, hitting a couple of them prior to moving in the vehicle and heading out. Back in the present, Mr. White tells Mr. Pink that Mr. Brown was shot and killed by police while fleeing, but Mr. Blonde and Mr. Blue are unaware of this information. They agree to remain in their current location. Mr. White. A short flashback shows Mr. White gathering with Joe Cabot and at Joe's office, where he offers Mr. White, whose genuine name is Larry Dimmick, a low-time veteran criminal from Wisconsin, a task in a forthcoming heist in a couple of months. Mr. White concurs, indicating White's long-lasting companionship with Joe Cabot. In the present, in the wake of dealing with an oblivious Orange, the 2 men talk about the activities of Mr. Blonde, who abruptly acted maniacal during the heist and killed a few regular folks in the store after the caution had been set off. Mr. White is maddened about Joe's choice to utilize such a savage individual and concurs about the chance of a setup, while Mr. Pink admits to having stowed away the precious stones in a protected area. Nonetheless, they savagely quarrel over the choice about whether to take the oblivious Mr. Orange to a clinic when Mr. White uncovers that he had told the previous his actual first name, Larry. Mr. Blonde, who has been watching them close to the entry, ventures forward and closes the question. White irately reprimanded Blonde for his shenanigans, while Blonde serenely shields himself, saying basically that he'd cautioned the staff of the gem dealers not to contact the alert. Because he had spoken to nice guy Eddie, who is already on his way, he tells them not to leave the rendezvous. After everybody quiets down, Mr. Blonde takes them to his vehicle and opens the storage compartment to uncover a con cop named Marvin Nash, Kirk Baltz, who he clearly took as a prisoner to escape from the gem store. Mr. Blonde meets with nice guy Eddie and Joe Cabot at their office in another flashback. Mr. Blonde's involvement in the heist is revealed during the meeting as a result of his friendship with nice guy Eddie. Blonde, whose genuine name is Vic Vega, had served 4 years in jail for outfitted burglary and wouldn't give the specialists Joe's name for a lighter sentence. Eddie suggests that Blonde join the team they're putting together for the jewel heist when he meets with Joe and Eddie. They first arrange a job for Vic and Blonde that will help Vic avoid contact with the man. Blonde eagerly acknowledges. In the present, White, Pink, and Blonde beat the cop and request that he uncover who the rodent is. He fights that he doesn't have the foggiest idea. The beating go on until an incensed Eddie shows up at the distribution center, in the wake of chiding the men over the massacre and inadequacy showed at the heist, and letting them know that beating Nash will not draw them nearer to figuring out anything. He arranges Pink and White to help him in recovering the taken precious stones and removal of the 2 commandeered vehicles outside, which he thinks will stand out. Blonde is instructed by him to remain with Nash and the dying Orange. Eddie, Pink and White then leave the scene. At the point when Blonde nonchalantly questions official Nash once more, The cop expresses that he has been a cop for quite some time and is oblivious with respect to a potential setup. After that, he begs Blonde to let him go without incident. However, Blonde admits that he is in fact a sadist and psychopath who enjoys torture and has no interest in the cop's knowledge or lack thereof. Before cutting off Nash's right ear and slashing his face with a straight razor, he turns on the radio and dances to Steeler's Wheels, Stuck in the Middle with You. Blonde then, at that point, recovers a jar of fuel from the storage compartment of his taken vehicle, splashes Nash with it, making a little path of the excess gas before the cop. Similarly, as he is going to light the fuel, he is hit by a few shots. Orange suddenly awoke, and in an effort to prevent Blonde from burning Nash, he fires multiple shots at Blonde. With Mr. Blonde dead, Mr. Orange and official Nash are currently alone in the distribution center. Orange reveals that he is Freddie Neuendijk, a police detective. Marvin claims to know this because he briefly met Orange a few months earlier, demonstrating to us that he had resisted the beating and torture to keep Orange's identity a secret. Orange consoles Marvin that a huge police force is in place a few streets away yet are holding on to move in when Joe shows up. Mr. Orange. One more extensive flashback subtleties Orange's association in a profound cover police activity to catch Joe Cabot. Mr. Orange/Freddy is shown gathering his controller Holdaway, Randy Creeks, one night at a neighborhood burger joint where he lets Holdaway know that he is in full with the group subsequent to meeting Joe and decent person Eddie prior that night at a club that Joe claims. As well as depicting a CI, criminal source, down in lengthy ocean side about establishing his bogus criminal past as a kind of perspective to be acknowledged. Mr. White, whom Orange/Freddy did not recognize as a member of Joe's group, is also discussed. Holdaway then, at that point, asks Orange/Freddy about something many refer to as the cabinet story, which Orange says that they got it. Then, in additional flashbacks inside flashbacks, Orange/Freddy is practicing his cover with Holdaway as well as getting into character for his most memorable gathering with Joe, including the cabinet story, practicing the scene like an expert entertainer to portray a piece of his cover for his criminal past from the sea shores in Venice to his condo, to a roof scene with Holdaway training Freddy to be on detail with the story to make it convincing. Mr. Orange/Freddy initially meets Joe Cabot, Eddie, and Mr. White at a neighborhood dance club where he tells them the cabinet story. A manufactured story, displayed in a totally created flashback, about being in a men's room with an enormous sack loaded with Mary Jane. For LA County sheriffs and a German shepherd were in the men's room with him. He talks about how cool he is under pressure, even though the dog can smell the marijuana. The gathering is entirely entertained and acknowledges him into their group. After that, Orange goes on a drive with Eddie, White, and Pink, where they talk about their favorite movie soundtracks in 1970s Pam Grier films. Eddie also tells them a story about how a black waitress at one of Joe's nightclubs got even with her abusive husband and how black women appear to be more abused and irritated than white women. Mr. Orange/Freddy for the most part avoids the discussion, fairly irritated by Eddie. White and Pink's bigoted talk including African Americans, for the most part since his companion and overseer Holdaway is dark. They are quietly being followed by inconspicuous police criminal investigators from Freddy's condo to the distribution center hideout. At the stockroom, Joe Cabot meets with every one of the individuals from the posse where he irately lets them know that their kidding kinship could cause them problems on the off chance that they don't view the heist in a serious way. He gives them their nom de plumes to be utilized and to go over insights regarding the impending burglary of a jewel store. A short contention results when Pink whines about his name. Joe furiously lets them know all that he chose beforehand, that he, when all is said and done, picks everybody's nom de plumes to stay away from contentions. They begin plotting the heist after Joe regains control of the meeting. After the gathering, Orange fosters a companionship with White as they roll over to the gem store to examine their parts in the forthcoming burglary. White informs Orange concerning a couple of techniques for swarm control he knows are idiot-proof. In one more flashback to the burglary escape, we see that Brown was some way or another shot in the head, and passes on while driving their departure vehicle with Orange and White in the secondary lounge, which collides with a left vehicle in a rear entryway relatively close to the gem store. Orange watches defenselessly while White escapes the vehicle, starts shooting with his two self-loader handguns on a coming squad car and fiercely slaughtering the two police in the vehicle. White and Orange escape the scene and reach a different street with Brown's death in sight. While endeavoring to take one more fast vehicle, it is uncovered here that Orange was shot in the stomach by the female driver of the vehicle he and White take. After the woman shoots Orange, Orange fires instinctively and kills her. Eddie, White, and Pink return to the warehouse in the present to find Blonde dead. Orange cases that Blondie planned to kill Marvin, Orange and the remainder of the posse so he could take the jewels for himself. Bubbling over with rage, Eddie momentarily uncovers Blonde's origin story. That he was a dear companion of his and a faithful warrior of his dad's. Orange battles to shield himself, which makes Eddie considerably angrier and he lethally shoots Nash multiple times. After telling the group that Mr. Blue was killed by the police, Joe himself arrives and confidently accuses Orange of being an informant. White defends Orange by appealing to Joe and arguing about Orange's loyalty. Orange is the target of Joe's argument that all he needs to recognize a traitor is his own instinct. A Mexican deadlock follows. White draws on Joe and Eddie draws on White. They wait for a while before Eddie shouts at White to stop pointing his gun at Joe. Everybody starts shooting, leaving Joe and Eddie dead, and White seriously injured, and Orange mortally injured. Pink, who stowed away to stay away from the shootout, takes the reserve of jewels and escapes the distribution center. As police alarms are heard outside, White supports Orange in his arms and Orange uncovers that he is truth be told a criminal investigator. White is devastated, in frustration. He begins to weep and points his gun at Orange's head while the police outside can be heard. At that point, the police can be heard striking the distribution center, with the camera in a nearby of White's face, requesting White drop his weapon. He declines and shoots Orange, bringing about the police starting to shoot at White not long before the screen goes dark.